Imagine waking up in a world with no cities, no roads, no buildings, no markets, no governments, no kings, no walls, no nations, just endless forests, rivers, mountains, and small groups of humans constantly on the move. For nearly 300,000 years, this was the only world humanity knew. Our ancestors never stayed in one place for long. They hunted animals, gathered wild plants, and when food ran out, they simply moved on. If you had told one of them that one day millions of people would willingly live side by side in giant cities filled with stone, noise, and strangers, they probably would have thought you were insane. So here's the question. Who built the first city? Was it a powerful king, a brilliant architect, an ancient civilization like the Sumerians, or did the world's first city appear in a way no one expected? To answer that, we have to travel back to a time before civilization itself, back to humanity's 0 point, a time when the very idea of a city didn't even exist. Life was simple, but simple didn't mean easy. Every morning was uncertain. Would the hunters find food? Would another tribe appear? Would a predator attack during the night? Survival depended on movement. Humans followed the seasons. They followed rivers. They followed migrating animals. If one place stopped providing food, they packed everything they owned and left. And because they were always moving, they never built anything meant to last. There was no reason to. Why build a house if you'd abandon it a few weeks later? For hundreds of thousands of years, this way of life worked. Humanity spread across continents, learned to survive deserts, cross icy mountains, cross oceans. It seemed like humans had already found the perfect lifestyle, until the Earth itself changed. Around 12,000 years ago, the last ice age came to an end. The climate became warmer. Rainfall became more predictable. Grasslands expanded. Wild grains grew across huge areas. For the first time, nature became stable enough for something incredible to happen. Some humans stopped chasing food and started growing it. It wasn't an overnight discovery. Nobody woke up one morning and invented farming. It happened slowly. Someone noticed that seeds dropped near their camp grew into new plants. Another person returned months later and found food waiting. Generation after generation, people became better at helping nature do what it already did. Without realizing it, they were changing history because growing food created a problem humanity had never faced before. You couldn't leave. Imagine planting a field of wheat. You spend months caring for it. Then, just before harvest, you decide to walk away. Everything would be lost. Wild animals would eat it. Another group could take it. Your work would disappear. For the first time in human history, staying in one place became more valuable than moving. That single change transformed everything. Families built shelters that lasted longer than a season. Then they repaired them, expanded them, built new ones beside them. Years passed. Children were born in the same place as their parents. Something entirely new appeared, a permanent settlement. But it still wasn't a city. Not yet. These early villages were small. But every successful harvest produced more food than people immediately needed. The extra food was stored. For the first time, humans had surplus. And surplus changed everything. Because if food could feed everyone, not everyone had to grow food. Some people began making tools. Others became builders. Some made pottery. Others traded with neighboring villages. For the first time, people had different jobs. But complexity always brings new problems. Who owns the stored grain? Who protects the village from outsiders who might steal everything? The bigger the settlement became, the harder it was to manage. Without knowing it, humans had begun building the foundations of civilization. Then, around 9,000 years ago, something remarkable appeared in what is now modern-day Turkey, a settlement known today as Çatalhöyük. At first glance, it doesn't even look like a city. There were no streets, no grand palace, no towering temples. The houses were packed tightly together like pieces of a puzzle. People didn't walk between buildings. They climbed onto the rooftops. Every roof was a pathway. To enter your home, you climbed down through an opening in the ceiling. It sounds strange today, but thousands of people lived this way. Archaeologists estimate that as many as 8,000 people may have lived there at its peak. That made it one of the largest communities on Earth. It wasn't a kingdom, it wasn't an empire, it wasn't ruled by famous kings. It was simply people living together, working together, growing together. And that's what makes it extraordinary. This is where most people expect a name: a king, an emperor, a legendary architect. But history gives us a very different answer. No single person built the first city. No civilization announced, "Today we shall create history." Instead, thousands of ordinary people made thousands of ordinary decisions. One family decided to stay another season. Another built a stronger house. Someone dug a better storage pit. Someone traded tools. Someone planted more crops. Children grew up. Families expanded. Neighbors helped neighbors. Generation after generation, without anyone realizing it, a village became something the world had never seen before. The first city wasn't born in a single day. It slowly emerged from countless human choices. In other words, the first city wasn't built by one person. It was built by everyone. Once humans discovered they could live together in large numbers, everything accelerated. Ideas spread faster, skills improved, trade expanded, people invented better tools. Writing appeared, governments formed, laws were created, armies emerged, great civilizations rose. Every famous city that came later, Uruk, Babylon, Athens, Rome, Cairo, Beijing, London, New York, all of them trace their story back to one simple idea: stay. Because the moment humans stopped constantly moving, history started moving faster than ever before. People often think cities are made of stone, or bricks, or roads. They're not. The real foundation of every city is cooperation. One person alone cannot build a civilization. 100 people can barely build a village. But thousands of people working together over generations can reshape the world. That's why cities became humanity's greatest invention. Not because they gave us bigger homes, but because they connected more minds than ever before. Every discovery, every invention, every empire, every library, every university, every hospital, every skyscraper exists because our ancestors learned one extraordinary lesson. Together, we can achieve what no individual ever could. So, who built the first city? Not a king, not an empire, not a single civilization. The first city was built by ordinary people who simply chose not to leave. They couldn't have known that their decision would change the future forever. But it did, because from that moment on, humanity was no longer just surviving the world. It was beginning to build one. And every city you see today, no matter how large, is part of a story that began thousands of years ago, with one small settlement and a simple choice: to stay. So here's something to think about. If you had lived back then, would you have kept moving, chasing food across the land? Or would you have stayed and helped build something permanent? Which one would you have chosen? Let me know in the comments. If this made you see cities differently, subscribe to First Zero, because this is just the beginning, from zero to the first.